Welcome, everybody. You are listening to The Juice. It is another Victory Monday, the second Victory Monday in 2 weeks of the NFL season. The Denver Broncos are undefeated at 2-0 with two stellar come-from-behind fourth-quarter victories. I'm Sayre Bedinger. Here with me, as always, celebrating another victory, Brandon Keckler.
Here we go, 2-0. We were 2-0
2-0
at this point last year, so we're not only excited about the 2-0, but we're hoping that this is a different 2-0.
Yeah, hopefully not a mirage like last year. And last year at this point, I was thinking that the Broncos were about to just be world beaters with Trevor Siemian. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. What was it, like 42-17 or something crazy like that? I don't remember the exact score, but my gosh, it was just a destruction of the Dallas Cowboys, which was very satisfying. No offense to any of our Cowboys fan listeners, but it was very satisfying considering the fact that we were just coming off of a tough season. Missing out on the playoffs at 9-7, and then you get that nice home matchup against Dallas. That feels good to beat the team that's supposedly America's team. So, but this year, the Denver Broncos have now beaten the Seattle Seahawks in impressive come-from-behind fashion. They have also now beaten John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders in impressive come-from-behind fashion. And in fact, one of the more impressive come-from-behind victories in team history. I don't know if you know this, Brandon, but the Broncos have had only 10 victories where they trailed by 12 or more points at halftime in team history. 10, including yesterday. So you can officially, maybe, hopefully for the last time this season they're facing that scenario, but officially you can count on two hands for the last time until it happens again, the amount of times that's happened in Denver Broncos history.
The last one, because I did see that stat on Twitter. The last one was an even bigger deficit. It was the come from behind against the Chargers.
That's right.
And I still remember exactly where I was. I was barely living in Irvine at the time. I'd only been there for a short period of time. And I remember being at Z's Pizza. I remember watching that game. I remember every moment about that comeback. And so those ones in particular, I don't remember too many games from that season. Specific moments, or really, I do remember the games. So I don't remember as much where I was watching all of them, but I remember that come from behind.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be very similar to yesterday's game as far as I remember. I'm going to remember that game for a long time. And I was talking to somebody afterwards, which I got some things to say about Broncos fans' reactions to yesterday. But, I was watching that one yesterday, and I said to somebody, and they were kind of shocked that I said this. I was like, that might have been my favorite victory over the Raiders. And that was something where they were kind of blown away at. But I love winning the games that you almost lose.
Yes.
And I don't you're so stressed, you're so tense, and it's like you don't know if you're coming out of this alive. And those ones when you lose are just really tough. But when they're the ones that you come away and pull out the victory on, they're some of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And I prefer it to a blowout. I'd rather be stressed out for 2 quarters and barely holding on and needing a miracle, some of those like Tebow kind of comeback conflicts, than just smoking people, man.
Yeah.
Obviously you want a lot of stuff to go right, but I think at the end of the day, as a storyteller and as a screenwriter, my very, very, very favorite moment is what I call the Helm's Deep moment.
Yeah.
It's usually at the end of Act 2, and all hope is lost. The walls have been breached. You're flooded. The army just keeps coming. You're screwed. And Gandalf shows up in Act 3, coming over the horizon with the Riders of Rohan, and everything is saved and it's glorious. And you don't get the glory of that moment unless you believe that you've lost Helm's Deep and you've lost it all, despite it only being movie 2 of the trilogy. They trick you. If they can trick you at the end of Act 2 into believing that there's no hope, or believing that this is how the heck are we going to come out of this situation alive? But then you do. And those are, to me, some of my very favorite cinematic moments. So yesterday felt a lot like that, where I was clenched, I was literally on the edge of my seat. I was stressing and sweating, and you know what? Gandalf came over the horizon in the form of, Case Keenum coming back and leading that charge. And especially especially that 4th and goal, and they spread them out wide. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do here? And Case hikes it and then just pounds it in. And to me, so far, I think that's my favorite Case Keenum Bronco moment. Is that
was a nice one.
Is they trusted him to do that. And he went and did that. He put the game on the line. He put his body on the line, and he just went in and took it in, put the team on his back, and scored when we needed it badly. And that was a beautiful, beautiful Bronco moment. And I think so far, maybe the season highlight for me.
Yeah, that exact moment, that's a turning point of the game. I mean, you're either gonna give the ball to the Raiders on the 1-yard line down by 9 points with very little time remaining, or you're gonna, put the score within 2 points like they did. And so that was a huge, huge moment. And it says a lot about this team's resilience. I was talking to our good friend Cody Rourke this morning, and I kind of just asked the predominantly orange staff, what you guys think about the game yesterday? I don't know if this is you, but I kind of try to distance myself from a lot of the fans during games, because you get a lot of negative reaction on Twitter and in your sacred group chats, and I appreciate that passion. But now that we've had a little bit to digest it, the word that Cody used was resilient, and I loved that. I love that description, because a team doesn't go down 12-0 with no offensive production, 1 first down in the entire first half, a couple of bad drop passes, a couple of missed opportunities to break tackles. I was watching this morning, Jake Butt. I mean, he could have had 2 big first downs early in the game had he just broken 1 tackle, or had he stiff-armed a safety.
Yeah.
And so there were reasons other than Case Keenum. Everybody wants to blame Case Keenum. There are reasons other than Case Keenum first half, but to come out in the second half and in the post-game celebration drives to open the second half, that's resilient, man. That's awesome. But not to cap it off, but to really establish yourself as the one who has momentum. That play by Case Keenum on 4th and goal, I wasn't expecting to see them spread everybody out wide. And then, of course, you're thinking, oh, no, what 50-50 up here, or, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
Give me some more of your thoughts on the first half of that game and where things were kind of going wrong for Denver.
Oh, it was a very rough half. And especially, the one team you really, I know I said a lot about how Seahawks was my biggest must win last week, just because we hadn't gotten our revenge game yet. We play Raiders, we get to beat the Raiders, and we lose to the Raiders quite often. That happens more frequently. But the Seahawks one was a little special. But anyway, the first half and losing against the Raiders in that fashion, when they're not supposed to be a good team this year, and we're getting shut out at the half, was rough. It was a hard thing to swallow. And you don't want Case to make those interceptions and those kind of plays, especially when we wanted to see him recover from week 1. We wanted to see him take care of the ball and not make any more mistakes. So especially when the first one happens, you don't know how many are going to occur. Now watching, reviewing the game, and that being his only interception, makes that one seem better. But at the time, you're not sure if this was the first of 3. So that was rough. I wasn't sure necessarily if I think you were talking about it, if they should have been in like the hurry up and kind of gassing those players early on, because the Raiders had some new defensive players. I thought that was a really good point that you made. There was a lot of drops. There's just some weird plays. A couple of those Jake Butt ones where if he would have gone like 1 yard more. So there's just a lot of little things that you kind of came to the half, and it's like, wow, like we have to change at halftime. We have to become something different. And you and I were talking about that. You and I were kind of keeping each other optimistic and positive throughout that situation. And especially halftime, it was like, okay, we're coming out. Watch this second half. We're about to blow everybody away. We're about to light it up, and we were just like trying to speak it all into existence, that we got to figure out what went wrong that half and come out and be a different team. And it, really felt like that is what happened. And it might not have been as loud and as bombastic of a second half as like you kind of want them to come out and just like go out and straight put up to like 28 points, bam, 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 touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. But it ended up being, especially the more you kind of go back and review and see, there was a lot of things that did not go in our favor. And despite that, despite some bad ref calls and, you know, some weird stuff that was going on, some bonehead plays and missed opportunities, you know, still in the second half, you know, it wasn't this totally smooth, awesome tale of two completely different halves. But we came out and we responded, in that resiliency. And that to me was more, that's okay. So when you're doing Photoshop, right? You got all the different layers and then you flatten them and it becomes one singular image. So it seems like with a lot of Broncos fans that their perspective is the flattened image, whereas you got the more of the deeper critics that are like, oh, I'm looking at the different layers of it, right? I'm looking at this layer, I'm switching to that layer. So there's good things, there's bad things, there's, you know, and they go through a lot of that. But a lot of the Twitter responses and some of my responses from friends and family were kind of along the lines of what you were saying, where you can get a lot of that negativity and things like that. You try to distance yourself from it. But a lot of them were, I think, just a simplified, flattened down, singular perspective of this is ugly.
Yeah.
And I just came away from the game, and that was not my, you know, flattened, singular takeaway. I was so impressed by how we bounced back. I was so impressed by, you know, us being down whatever to like it was 10 points or something, 9 or 10 points. And that we were like still out there battling and fighting and never giving up and finding ways to win and like screwing up one play or losing something to a ref or a penalty flag gets thrown and we still the next play would bounce back. We never collapsed. We never fell apart. And to me as a Bronco fan, that's how I was feeling, was like, hey, this is crazy, but you as my witness, I was in there like, no, Sayre, watch this. No, we're gonna bounce back. I remember there was a specific text to you where I was like, dude, all we need is a touchdown here. We get within 2, and D's gonna do the job, man. Defense is gonna come in and clutch and blah blah blah. And yeah, we got help from a penalty and a gassed Jared Cook, you know, that kind of blew that game. But blowing a very serious moment that changed the game. They talked about Jared Cook being the game changer against us. They were right, but it ended up being that he was the game changer where he actually blew it for the Raiders, because that Marshawn came out on second down or on first down and got 6 yards or whatever. So it's like all they needed was like 4 in that scenario on that play. And it's like, man, you got Marshawn Lynch. They're probably going to pound it in. They're just going to drain this clock. Jared Cook gets called for that. They're back at the 10, and then the rest is history. But yeah, I thought that was to me the greatest tale and the greatest takeaway was not, oh my gosh, the Broncos are winning ugly. That just seems seems like such an overly simplistic and like just, I don't know, really negative way to look at it, where yes, I saw all the same negatives. I saw all the same ugliness, but I don't come away leaving that game and like the friends and family are hitting me up. First thing they said, that was ugly. And I'm like, dude, be proud of your team for pulling out of ugly and making something, pulling out a W from the freaking ashes and rising like a phoenix. That was to me a beautiful thing, because like we've been talking about, if we can play 4 quarters of this, if we can be consistent, if we can, you know, drop down some of these errors and just, we have a high ceiling. We got some pieces, we got some toys to play with, and I left that game, despite thinking we'd smash the Raiders, I left that game more excited about the Broncos than before, even though they almost lost to the Raiders that they should have never lost to. And that's a weird kind of paradox, you know?
Right. Yeah. You made some great points there. A lot of great points. And especially in terms of the reaction after the game. I think that's fair to say that, you know, maybe the first half was ugly, but I think what you said about the second half being just a beautiful rising from the ashes, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely what it was. And the Broncos did play a lot better, maybe even cleaner football in the second half. And I think it started, I was really interested by this. It seemed to me at first like is Vance Joseph really pulling these same end of half weird timeout tricks that he'd pulled last year? I mean, last year there were a number of times where I was like, what is Vance Joseph doing? Why is he calling a timeout and then running it before the half? Or why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? It didn't, there was a lot of things that he did last year that didn't make sense. And I was thinking yesterday that he might have been on the same track as far as, okay, why is he calling timeouts here? And then why is he running, why is he running the ball with Booker? But it was all a setup, and it was really interesting how it impacted the second half. So the end of the first half, where the Broncos got the ball with very little time left, Shaquille Barrett had just blocked that game-changing point after, which turned out to be the actual difference in this final score. So the Broncos got the ball back with like 36 seconds left. And I remember they started throwing the ball, and Bruce Arians on the broadcast was like, well, nothing good can come from this. And he was potentially right in terms of, what could happen before the end of the half. We all know, 2015, Andy Reid decided to throw it, and Aqib Talib took a pick six to the house, basically kind of cementing that game against the Chiefs. But they tried to rip the ball down the sideline to Demaryius Thomas. It was an overthrow from Keenum. So what they were trying to do was not to necessarily even get into field goal range, but to get close to midfield, because they had a play that could work. And after Booker had a big run, they had another player too, I think, that got them a little bit closer to midfield. They ran that hook and ladder play, and it was flawless. And I can't remember exactly what happened to shut it down before the end zone, but the Raiders only had 10 guys on the field, and the Broncos, it may have just been that their blocking got a little bit too close to the sideline, and Sanders was forced to run out of bounds. But man, what a play call. What a play call. And they had to get themselves into that situation. So what appeared to be some serious mismanagement of the game clock turned out to be, hey, we're going to try this home run shot right here. We're going to try it out, but we need to be at the 40 or closer in order to make it work. And man, they came really close. But that, to me, that aggressiveness really set the tone for the second half. And they came out, they scored a touchdown on their first possession offensively. Just felt like the offense really, really started to click after that a little bit better. And so I was interested by that decision in the moment, and then having the privilege of hindsight, now you kind of see what Vance Joseph and the staff were doing there. They weren't being, frivolous with their snaps. They weren't trying to, upstage the Raiders. They were actually trying to get more than a field goal. They were trying to get more than in field goal range at that point, and just giving up after a failed running. So I found that to be very, very interesting. And and obviously it followed up, or it was the follow where it's blocked. And isn't it interesting how in the moment, when you're down 12-0, and all it's a thing, but then you read that the was blocked, and you're kind of just like, oh, whatever, they're already up 12. What difference does that 1 point make? What a difference. So
yeah, and that's what won us the game.
The game ultimately was that 1 point. So yeah, big deal. It turned out to be a big deal. So and maybe you shed some light on this here first. I want to talk about Demaryius Thomas.
Okay.
Statistically, one of the worst games I've ever from Demaryius, and it definitely didn't help for his reputation. He dropped 1 or 2 last week as well, but yesterday's 11 targets, 5 catches, so six, and then 18 yards on 5 catches, 3.6 yards per catch.
Yeah, that was tough, man. I was wearing my Demaryius jersey, and I think I switched it up at halftime, actually. I was wearing Vaughn earlier, and D was doing good, so I was like, all right, DT and the offense need a little kick. So I'm going to, I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to give the offense some mojo, some love. I tried to cook a chicken parm in the first half to give us a little boost, but maybe it was just delayed. Maybe it was delayed as it was moving through my system. But so yeah, man, DT, I love DT. I've been really hoping that we talked about this earlier in the week. Kind of a little fun fact to where DT's trailing Rod Smith is by 10 touchdowns, I think. And then DT would be the number 1 wide receiver in Broncos history. And you got to wonder, man, like, is he just forever destined to be the number 2 guy behind Rod Smith, as far as that touchdown count? Because does he make it another year on this team, with his contract? I forget I don't know what the guarantees are for next year, but just with getting
17 million or
guaranteed next year.
Well, against the cap. So I don't necessarily know how much guaranteed. I think it's a significant portion of that, obviously.
Okay. Well, so just more so than just getting Cortland and Hamilton, we don't have as much of a need for him in the future, so that whenever his contract does expire, it seems like that's probably going to be the last of DT. So we'll see, if he ends up putting up 10 touchdowns by the time he leaves, or 11 to, take over that number 1 spot as the greatest Bronco receiver of all time. And I think that the sentiment of Broncos fans has just been disappointment in a lot of DT's career, as far as, especially post Peyton, just a lot of drops, a lot of mental errors. It seems like there was even a year or 2 with Peyton where that was a lot of he was making these mistakes. I think that even I'm especially thinking of the year he had all that stuff going on with his mom getting out of jail and all that. You just felt like he was getting in his own way. The dude's got all the talent in the world. He's got a system that's working in his favor. He's a lot better of a route runner than he used to be. And it just bums me out to see him still making these errors, because, I felt like we won the Dez versus Demaryius debate with what Demaryius has done in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, maybe Dez had some bigger games and bigger small chunks, but the body of work and accomplishment, Demaryius has won that debate. But you want to finish strong. We want to end this Demaryius story with the Broncos on a good note. And it just seems like he almost seems like more of a burden than a positive on us right now, especially with the fact that we're not really hurting at wide receiver. With Butt and Hireman, we've got some pass catching tight ends. Mm-hmm. With Hamilton, we haven't even seen Hamilton too much. I don't know if he's even gotten a catch yet. I know he's playing, but it's like, so why aren't we throwing to some of those guys at third down when Demaryius just seems like he perpetually drops passes in big moments, and then he'll come back and he'll catch the next one. You don't really see him drop 2 in a row too often, but I think he seems like yesterday he seemed like he was more of a liability than helping us in that victory. And if we've got these other young guys, and you can throw to Lindsay, and I guess occasionally you can drop one off to Booker, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Seems like we have these other options that I don't know how much we need DT anymore. And, if we're looking around the league and there's some other teams that, you could even look, I wouldn't want them to go to the Patriots. That would break my heart. But you look at, like the Patriots really need a wide receiver. They're hiring all these has-beens from everywhere that they can possibly try,
mm-hmm.
And working out every single guy that was supposed to be something that didn't pan out to see if maybe they can squeeze, something out of him. There's a lot of other teams as well that are just like maybe a wide receiver away from being able to contend at least for their division. Looking at the Cowboys, where I don't know how deep they can make in a playoff run, but they definitely need a wide receiver. There's a lot of teams out there that need something like that. And if I'm the Broncos, I might be fielding offers. I might be rolling with Emmanuel Sanders and Cortland Sutton as your 2-star wide receivers. And then you're working in guys like Hamilton and Tim Patrick and Butt and Hireman, and then using creatively using the running backs that you have, and they're throwing to Jano. We got a lot of toys to play with. That if DT is going to be on this team in a major role, he needs to do better.
Yep.
He's letting Bronco country down right now, I feel. And I love him. I love him as a person. He doesn't have any off the field issues these days. Nothing that's going on to where he's causing a problem in the locker room or any of that. It breaks my heart to be in this position where I'm hoping that DT goes somewhere else, because I feel like he's not doing anything for Broncos country. And it's not personal, it's business. And that's the point where we're at, where he's a huge mark on the cap. And when he's out on the field as our wide receiver 1 and being utilized that way, especially in the first half where they kind of took Emmanuel out of the game, whether that was us trying to utilize our other weapons thinking that they'd go to Emmanuel, or it was the team shutting Emmanuel out. You'd have to tell me that. But what one of the two, or some combination of both, DT was someone that we were going to in that first half. And that was a reason why we were struggling a bit more than I think we needed to against the Raiders, was that he was dropping some important passes that were being thrown his way. And Keenum needs to be building chemistry with, and we need to be utilizing some of these other weapons that we have in those situations. I want to see what Hamilton's like on a clutch third, because that's kind of what we're supposed to be using him for. I think we should move, at the very least, if we don't get rid of Demaryius and we keep Demaryius, which I'm fine with. If we do that, we need to change our game plan of when we're using him.
Yes. Completely agreed. Because his effectiveness is dropping significantly. I mean, like you just talked about, the drops are just too big. I was watching yesterday. There's that first half play. You remember the play where Keenum fires deep over to the sideline, and the ball hit Demaryius in the hands, and Leon Hall made a nice play on the ball to knock it loose. Yeah, but that's a ball that Demaryius Thomas has to catch.
Yeah.
You're a number 1 wide receiver. You're being paid like a number 1 wide receiver. That's a catch that you have to make.
And that was one of the more excusable ones.
It was.
But yes, I agree.
But yes, it was still one of his drops. But then you look at a 2nd and 3 play where Demaryius is literally sitting in the middle of the field wide open by himself. Ball comes in right about face level, and he knocks it up in the air like a volleyball play. And that ball could just as easily be picked off. And then Case Keenum all of a sudden is having 5 interceptions instead of just 4 through 2 games. And that would have been Demaryius' fault. And those plays kill drives. The Broncos could have had better options in the first half had Demaryius Thomas on Sutton. Sutton had, I think, 1 catch on 6 targets, while Tom 11. So combine those two guys. And look at that. 17 targets and 6 catches between the two of them.
Wow.
I mean, that's bad from 2 guys who are playing significant snaps and figured out. And it wasn't an accuracy issue. Those balls were hitting Thomas. And then, of course, you have, I mean, obviously with Sutton, a couple of those targets, they go down as incomplete passes, but we all saw what happened.
I don't remember too much. I don't remember too much of Sutton making those mistakes. To me, I remember the one that was out of bounds. I don't remember seeing like Sutton just get hit in the hands and dropping it. Was there a play like that? Am I just not remembering it? Was I like, did I step away for a moment?
Go at some point in the first half, and there was, I think they were both first down plays. I think they were both had, he had created himself a little space from the defensive back. Just a quick pass play that would have gained, between 8 and 12 yards. But at the same time, those are plays that you need. You need those plays. So it's to me, it was just a poor display, and it has to get fixed.
Yeah. And on the note of Sutton, obviously we mentioned a little bit and Broncos fans saw it, but those was a couple big robberies on that drive. That one specifically where the one was out of bounds and they reviewed it and it wasn't a catch, but there was an obvious pass. It was amazing that he even was able to hold on to that ball with the way that guy was ripping his arm. And, which is just kind of like one of those unfortunate things where refs can go in and look at that. And you think like they'd figure this out by now, that it's like, if a ref can go back and look at the play and go, oh, well, that wasn't a catch, but geez, he freaking grabbed his hand and made an illegal move and yanked it and stopped the play. They would figure out some type of system, because these are your parameters that you have in place. Everything's based on the rules, right? All sports, all things, even my screenwriting or whatever, it's all within limitations. You are the ones that control the limitations as the rule makers and things like that. And you're telling me that you can go and view that and see that he illegally stopped that player from being able to make the catch. You can see it clearly. We can all agree on it. We all know it. And there's nothing that you can do about it. That's a bummer. And then that's where it's like, they knew that happened. So then Cortland goes down, and there's a very, very difficult play. It would have been very difficult to overturn, where you didn't see the white kick up, which is what the announcers were saying in the touchdown, right? That would have been a tough one to overturn. But because of the same opposite thing, because of the fact that they ruled it initially as an incomplete, they couldn't see enough to prove that it wasn't incomplete, okay? So it's like, with them screwing the first play up and robbing him of that other one when he was clearly passing to have that one go that way on a 50-50, I feel like they should have given it to him from screwing up the earlier one, So I know that's not necessarily how it works, but it's like, come on, man. Those were one of the plays where he was wronged on the first one, and the second one was just a completely 50-50 that it's really hard to tell what did or didn't happen, and we got the wrong end of a 50-50. So it's like, that was tough, because Sutton, you're not just robbing a mid-career Sutton touchdown. You just took away the guy's first career touchdown on a controversial play, and that's a bummer.
Right. Yep. You took away also our 3 for 3 yesterday.
I know. We were pumped.
Fantasy football.
And Sayre and I are in a pretty awesome, intense dynasty league, and I traded up into 2 and 3, gave up CJ and Demarius and Ben Booker and a bunch of picks, and ended up getting up into 2 and 3 and got Royce and Sutton, and then Sayre got DJ Moore at 4, and we were hoping that we were gonna go 3 for 3. Sayre kind of pulled the prophecy out and was like, "Hey, all of our guys are getting their first career touchdowns today." And then DJ caught his, Royce pounded his in, and then Sutton got his touchdown. And it wasn't. And it was gone. 3. And it was gone. For a brief moment, I was like, "Sayre, you nailed it, 3 for 3." But alas, the refs robbed our prophecy.
The refs, they took away a couple of first career touchdowns yesterday. They took away Phillip Lindsay's first career rushing touchdown. Well, no, not Phillip Lindsay. They took away Tim Patrick's first career rushing touchdown. Yeah. Phillip Lindsay should have just had that. I don't know how he got tackled at the 1. Somebody's going to have to explain that to me at some point. Just the physics of that. He was going full speed. I don't know. That was crazy. And then Sutton's first touchdown got taken away, man. And that was a touchdown. I'm not trying to be a homer for that one. That was a touchdown.
Yeah.
I didn't see any white paint, up in the air. I didn't see any of that grass disturbed or anything. So I say touchdown. That's a phantom touchdown. So if he has 9 at the end of the year and he could have had double digits, somebody's gonna have to be scolded for that.
And I loved Tim Patrick's emotional reaction at the end, where in the locker room where he was being interviewed, and he's like, "I only got 3 plays, and I'm going to do the best I can with my 3 plays." And, that was one of my plays, and he was just one of them. He felt humbled and emotionally moved and stirred from just, getting the opportunity to have those few plays, and that he was going to maximize and do everything he could to maximize those plays. So that was awesome.
It was awesome. I loved it. And I loved the performance from Phillip Lindsay. And he has officially taken, even after Saquon Barkley had last night to surpass him, he's number 1 with 178 rushing yards among rookies through the first 2 games. The leading rookie rusher, Phillip Lindsay, undrafted, not invited to the scouting combine, barely got invited to the local pro day. I'm being dramatic, but you get where I'm going with this.
Right.
Count it out, man. Count it out. Basically a walk-on player, you know, and had less than that chance to make an NFL roster according to everyone else. I mean, there are some crazy statistics about players who don't get invited to the scouting combine and their success in the NFL. The amount of players that don't get invited to the combine and actually make it in the NFL is very, very tiny.
Yeah.
So, Phillip Lindsay overcoming the odds, leading the Denver Broncos in touches through the first 2 games, took over the snap count lead for running backs this past week, gaining the trust of the offensive staff, gaining the trust. I don't know if you noticed this. How many plays on 3rd downs was he in there to stick his nose in and pick up a pass protection?
A lot.
They're trusting him with a lot.
Yeah.
And so I can't help but be impressed. I really hope when they go to Baltimore this week, I really hope he gets out of that thin air and gets underneath a couple of kickoff returns and we get to see him take one back. Because I don't think any kickoffs have been returned in Denver for Phillip Lindsay. So
no, Pac-Man almost blew one yesterday.
He did.
He got lit up right as he caught one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. Lindsay's blowing all of our minds across the entire NFL. But I think the Buffs fans like to be like the girl that knew about the band before anybody else did. That was there when they were playing acoustic shows to 10 people in a coffee shop, right? So that's how Buffs fans are right now, where they're just like, no, like we knew this. And of course, yeah, you did. You knew about Phillip Lindsay first. You knew he, had a good chance to go and do something special in the league. You did not. None of you thought he would be ahead of Saquon Barkley week 2.
Yeah.
So there's a degree of surprise and shock at how well he's doing across the board. If you're everybody but Phillip Lindsay's mother and Phillip Lindsay, in my opinion. So, yes, this is awesome. I'm somebody that in our dynasty league, the same one, I took him with my very last pick, which ended up being the very last pick of our dynasty draft. Way down behind a bunch of guys that have already been dropped. And I grabbed him. I'm surprised you didn't grab him, but I did grab him, and he's been on my bench week 1 and week 2. And it's been hard for me because I got Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey last year. Those are my 2 big come-ups. And we're in a 14-team league, by the way, so that's pretty impressive, actually. But so I couldn't for the life of me, I could not put Lindsay in over Cook, McCaffrey, or Freeman. And now I'm thinking until Freeman punches in a couple touchdowns and gets 100 yards in a game, that I think I'm foolish for not starting Phillip Lindsay over Freeman. Probably every game from here on out. Because I've been basing off the depth chart. Okay, are we really going to Freeman's the first rookie running back, start for the Broncos. He looks good on tape. He's, already punched a touchdown in and, had a decent, pretty good first one. He's got a great yards per carry. It's like, how do you put the 3rd string guy in over Royce Freeman, who's the number 1 in the depth chart? It's been tough for me to make that decision,
right?
But I'm now tuning out the stupid depth chart. Booker as number 2 got more touches than Freeman, despite being the 2nd on the depth chart. And Lindsay, despite being 3rd on the depth chart, is leading all freaking rookies and is clearly not only the one that is making the most impact with his touches, but they're also giving him the most touches. So I'm going Phillip Lindsay and at least McCaffrey every week from here on out, which that was a great 14 catch game from McCaffrey yesterday. Oh my gosh. 14 catch, even just the utilization rather than the fact he didn't blow anything away or get any touchdowns, but he got 14 catches yesterday. So that's pretty awesome. But man, I'm going with Phillip Lindsay and I'm going with McCaffrey. And then I'm finding out each week who I'm starting out of Cook and Freeman as that 3rd slot. But I'm not benching my boy Lindsay anymore, man. He's blowing Bronco country away. He's blowing the NFL away. And it looks like it's only it's only going to keep rising, man. He hasn't even punched a rushing touch. Oh yeah, no, he hasn't hit a rushing touchdown. No,
he almost had it yesterday. He was 1 yard shy, 1 yard away, and that was man. Like I said, doesn't make sense to me how he didn't get in, but he didn't, and that's that is what it is. But
I love the way they're utilizing him. It's crazy. It plays even a lot of times that I think they're going to take him out and put Freeman in. They were keeping him in. Yep. And it's just, he's only going to grow. He's only going to get better. And I could really see something to where Lindsay becomes the star running back of our team, and we use Freeman as the vulture goal line when everybody's gassed. I love Freeman's run toward the end of the game where he should have been tackled in the backfield, shook somebody off, and took it around the edge for a much needed first down, I believe it was. But my goodness, like, that crazy that we're already here week 3 thinking, wow, is Lindsay the star of our offense? Is Freeman going to be the guy that we bring in as the vulture? Like, this is blowing me away. I mean, look at you look at I think the biggest shocker to me of yesterday by far was the fact that Booker got more touches than Royce.
Yeah, that was not good.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
No, I don't think that's – I think, part of me wants to believe that they're just kind of experimenting with stuff yesterday.
He did average over 5 yards a carry. So let's make that. He got 3 carries for 17, I believe.
Yep.
So it's not, I think like
maybe – yeah. No, I was just going to say I think that maybe like 10 to 12 of those came on that end of the first half run where they set up the hook and ladder. So he did have that, and he looked pretty good on that run. I can't deny. I don't know what the Raiders exactly were expecting there, but I mean, he showed some burst there. He got downfield.
I'm certainly no longer in the get rid of Booker category of fans. Yeah. I just don't think that we should be utilizing him over our 2 other guys. That's my only thing. Dude, he's a great third running back for our team. You know?
Yeah, he's a good third.
And he's got some veterancy where I think they are using him in some pass protection situations because I think they trust him. It's clear. Yeah. What other excuse? What other reason is there for using him more than Royce besides the fact that you're trusting him in some situations to know what he's doing? Where maybe you're still thinking that you got to bring Royce up to speed in some ways. Because why would his carries drop? Royce didn't underperform week 1.
Right. And I think, too, this is just an observation after having watched the game. Now, I watched it a second time this morning. I wonder, do you think the Broncos' passing game is better when Royce Freeman is ripping off? I mean, obviously, this seems obvious, but I think that the passing game's success is pretty well correlated to when Royce Freeman is running the ball well. He gets the defense on their heels.
Yep.
And when he's on the field, the defense has to respect the run. And so they might stack the box a little bit, and that makes it so much easier for Keenum to find, Emmanuel Sanders and DT and Sutton. And how about that offensive line, especially in the 2-minute drill? Other than that initial penalty, which now can be forgiven because they overcame it, but other than that initial penalty, they were giving Keenum all kinds of time. And they offered him the opportunity to pick apart that defense, to find open receivers, to get the ball to the sideline, to find Tim Patrick, who, man, what a play. So I'm really impressed again by the offensive line. The Broncos obviously ran the ball really well. And so it was just a good,
where do you think the Raiders and the Seahawks defensive lines rank in the NFL?
Well, the Raiders has got to be pretty low, just in terms of pure talent.
You think so? Because at least proportionately to the rest of their defense, isn't their defensive line the best part of their defense?
Well, it was for sure when Khalil Mack was there, and then they a couple of their top players were out injured this week, and so then they went out and signed Jonathan Hankins and our old boy Clinton McDonald. So I don't know. It's maybe a budding strength for them as far as like Maurice Hurst. Right? Yeah, Hurst is a good player. PJ Hill they drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round this year. He's supposed to be a good player.
I felt like they had a good interior defense.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did yesterday
And
for sure.
even for just having some patchwork guys. And my point to this was, and then you can also finish that about the Seahawks too, is, how much is that going to be something that's going to get easier down the road to ground and pound with Royce to really open the offense up for Case maybe sooner in the game?
Yeah, I think that this week it's going to get tougher. I think Seattle's is pretty good, probably middle of the road. Baltimore's, however, Baltimore's got a pretty stout defensive front as per usual.
I don't know much about Baltimore this year.
They lost on Thursday night to Cincinnati, and so they're having kind of that extra little bye week, even coming off that loss against the Broncos here in their kind of homecoming game. So, but Baltimore's always got a pretty stout defensive front. And last year, I remember we talked on another show earlier on the Juice that Baltimore was kind of one of the more defenses in the league last year. Forced a lot of turnovers. They play pretty fast. They play physical. They've got big. They're just always really big on the defensive front, and so Denver's.
So they're going to be so far our toughest challenge defensively.
I would say so. I would say just at least based on a small sample size this year, and then all of last year, and what they're capable of. I think that they'll be the best defense that the Broncos face.
I think they might be our easiest offense that we faced.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, yep.
Simultaneously, the toughest defense. I mean, I did watch. I've watched both Ravens games this year, so I know a general amount. And usually, it's like I know all their offensive players because of fantasy, but I just didn't know much about their defense and their personnel outside of a few of their kind of major guys. But their offense doesn't seem like it's going to be able to do too much. And this is maybe that game where, unless they really, really are going to follow the Raiders strategy, which I guess I don't see why they wouldn't, just a lot of those quick passes and try to beat us that way. If they try to play any other way besides that, this might be the game that we're able to tee off on the quarterback the most.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't know what their O-line's
completely. I don't know.
I don't see Alex Collins doing more to us than Marshawn did.
On that. No, nope. I don't think Alex Collins is better than anyone faced to this point. I definitely don't think Flacco in their passing game is better than Derek Carr.
No. Hey, let's give credit where credit's due. Carr had a great game, by the way.
Carr did have a great game, and the Raiders game plan. He completed over 90% of his passes. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plan to get rid of the ball quickly. Ways to get guys open. Matchups that they knew that they could.
Yeah.
It was a good move.
Yeah. Carr, coming off of week 1, there was a lot. I was pretty thirsty for this game to play against them after seeing them in week 1. And thinking that we could do a lot against them, especially with the 6 sacks on Russell Wilson. It was like our first white quarterback we were going to be up against. And I was hoping we would just be able to destroy him. But, man, they did a great job protecting him. And it really just, I think, more so, they're just getting the ball off really quick, every time. It was frustratingly so. But Carr had a very impressive game. Bouncing back off of a rough initial debut. So that was something that if I were Raider fans, I would cling to the fact that right after you lost Khalil Mack and then Carr had a bad game, especially maybe even with Cooper too. Like you come out of that game thinking that, maybe Amari Cooper can return to form, or we just had a really bad game plan for covering him. I don't know what was going on. Right. There seemed like there was a lot of plays where I just don't get how open those guys were, and I'm no defensive mastermind. It's so easy for me to be like, oh, well, why can't we get somebody on that guy, But it's like it's not like they're going, oh, whoa, we forgot about that, offensive player. There's obviously a reason for it, but I don't know what they were thinking. It seemed to me at times, correct me if I'm wrong, that their game plan for going after them was like, well, we got 6 sacks in the first game. Let's just freaking blitz the crap out of them with our weapons. But it was like every time if Carr could get it off before the blitz hit, there was just so much space between one of their guys and us. And it was like that. And so many times where we really needed a third down stop, or just like there's just these different moments where it was like, that seemed like, okay, stop the super blitz strategy. Let's put some more, pull everybody from the secondary in. Let's get everybody, all of our corners, all of our safeties out there. Let Vaughn and Wolf and like 4 guys blitz, even if they're double covering Vaughn. Like some of those plays, I would have rather had Carr have plenty of time and them doubling Vaughn and just like them struggling to kind of get to him than him just hiking the ball and quick throw and no one's there. The safeties are way back far. Chris Harris is playing zone. It's just like, or whatever, but I just couldn't get some of those wide open plays that did not just happen 1 or 2 times, but seemed to happen frequently.
Yeah. It seemed like the Broncos were playing off coverage, mixing in a little bit of zone coverage, and the Raiders had a plan to beat that. And the Broncos just didn't have the ability to match up in that press man defense that we're so used to seeing from them. They just didn't do it. There were times in the broadcast when you're like, why is that corner playing 8 yards off the line of scrimmage? Why is he playing so deep? It's 3rd and 5, Right. But to me, it was just kind of it just seemed like a little bit of a whiff by Joe Woods yesterday at times, adjusting to the Raiders' strategy. And so
at least Cook didn't beat us, man. That was that's a silver lining, because that's what everybody thought would happen is,
right.
It's kind of the 1+1 mentality that, like I said, that flattened kind of perspective was, well, they sucked against the tight end and looks like the Raiders are going to simply go to Jared Cook and beat us, or that's their best chance to beat us. And that he got 40 something yards. So
49 on 4 catches. So it wasn't like that wasn't a typical day at the office for a tight end, I mean, what were Jake Butt's numbers? They had to be pretty similar. So that's a pretty typical day at the office on a Sunday for an NFL
especially
tight end.
This year. Tight end is kind of a weak, soft position in the NFL this year, seems like.
Yeah. So for those who thought that Jared Cook was going to repeat what he did against the Los Angeles Rams, come out and have this huge fantasy game against Denver, you've been proven wrong. Okay. But Amari Cooper, not so much.
Bench Kelsey for Cook yesterday. That would have been awesome. And then
that would have been brutal.
I could see that happening for a lot of people. Like, oh, well, they're against the Broncos, and Kelsey had a really, 1 catch in his first game with Mahomes this year. So,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how much the difference Martavis Bryant just being on the field made.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to respect him. You got to, with a guy like that, and especially maybe because the Broncos feel like they were giving up speed with Cooper and Bryant on the field, and then their defensive backs being a little bit older. Maybe they felt like they were giving up speed, so they had to take that extra couple yards off the ball. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
I think I grew in my respect for Gruden. And how he game planned that game, and just the Raiders coordinators, just like, I really thought we'd blow that team out, and they had a really good plan with I think lesser pieces than we have, and they almost beat us because of coaching, I believe. They got Carr. They made a good plan for Carr. Carr had his best game in a while against us, and we're no bums. Yeah, our secondary outside of our main guys is pretty thin. The depth of corner looks like it's as bad as we hoped it wouldn't be, but and they took advantage and picked on it. But I think that they did really well with utilizing. They maximized. Seemed like Gruden and those coordinators maximized their team's potential when it comes to the limited pieces that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, I was impressed by that, especially coming off that embarrassing loss that they just had. So I think that was a good job by Gruden. Obviously, their decision to trade Khalil Mack really burned them at the end of this game.
Yeah, they probably would have won that. They probably would have won that game if they had Mack.
Yep. So The Broncos won that tight game. I thought Vance Joseph, I thought he did a really good job of kind of adjusting and responding to those coaching tactics.
Didn't he look like the T-1000 on the sidelines with those aviators?
Oh yeah, I
Man,
love it.
I'm telling you, like he was there with his arms crossed, like we're going for it on 4th down, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, did like Vance Joseph evolve into a badass like in the offseason? Like, my goodness, like
Yes.
go for it on 4th, like we're taking it here, like we're gonna lose this game if we don't go for it on 4th. It's like, yeah, baby, this is the
Yep.
Vance Joseph that I want to see, you know. So I'm
Mhm.
very impressed by his growth. That's where I said he looked like a machine yesterday, just you know, and the aggression that we had in some of those plays. And I really
Mhm.
felt like, you know, a lot of our come from behind victory should be attributed to Vance Joseph, as much as fans wanted to freaking burn the city down and fire Vance Joseph in the first half because
Yeah.
they get really emotional and need somebody to blame. You know, they need a linchpin to you know, put the whole thing on to, because their feelings are upset, you know, and Vance Joseph's the easiest target. But so far, what
Exactly.
I've seen in 2 games, and what I'm seeing from this team is I don't want Vance Joseph to go anywhere at this point. I'm not ready to crown him as our longtime coach. I was talking to a Lions fan earlier today about that, how, you know, just not necessarily having the coach yet that can take you the long ways, but also not knowing if he isn't. You know, he's feeling that
Mhm.
way about Patricia, and you know, not thinking that they've landed the next Belichick like all of Belichick's proteges, but you know, you can't throw him out yet either. So that's
Right.
with Vance Joseph. I'm seeing more in year 2 of things that I think he's adapting to and getting better at. And you want to see that growth. This is what I'm excited about as a Bronco fan. I'm excited to see them learning from their mistakes. We've talked about this so much, you know, the drop the
Mhm.
Batman Begins quote last week. You know, why do we fall down, Bruce? So we can learn to get back up. I want to see this Bronco team. You know, I don't care as much about the mistakes as much as their response to the mistakes.
Exactly. Exactly. And I thought that they responded very well throughout that game. I mean, look at the end of the first half and the adjustments that they made there. They made some great adjustments at halftime. To go after they scored the touchdown coming out of the half, they gave up another one. They were down 19-7, and my brother and I were watching the game this morning, just recapping 19-7 for a little bit, 19-7, and I was like, yeah. And it was late in the third quarter, and after that, and then you have calls by the officials and the bad reversals, and then you have to. I mean, all. So I think the team looks more poised. Uh,
Yes.
me to me, I think they made adjustments to be able to win the game throughout. It was a tough coach, but a Broncos in week 2, a victory. So, and it looks
Yeah.
like Branch and John, it looks either going to be traded to the New England Patriots. So, I don't know if he's going to be coming to Denver. Doesn't seem likely, but Josh Gordon might be going to the New England. You know, thankfully we don't have to play. Kind of a shame there. So, um,
Wow.
desperation potential. We'll see.
Yeah,
Lies a deal.
it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
It is.
They always kind of give chances to those guys with those problems. So with, you know, some of the off the field issues or not, we'll see if he buys into the Patriot way. You know, I know that after that game of that decimation to the Jags and I think their receivers had like 40 yards in 3 quarters or something like that. McDaniels needs a new toy to play with to get Brady the ball, and this
Mm-hmm.
could be a Brady Moss situation. and that's terrifying. I may be very, very angry at the Browns, where I was hoping to root for them to be better. And now if they give Josh Gordon up right when he got past all of his stuff, aren't Cleveland fans just going to be so freaking pissed that Josh Gordon is finally ready to go? And then you cut him, and then he goes and becomes a star on the Patriots. Like, I don't know how. I think that may be an unforgivable move for a lot of Browns fans, as far as Hugh Jackman's concerned. Hugh Jackson. Okay, is it Hugh Jackson? Hugh Jackson, coach of the Browns?
Yeah, yep.
I say Hugh Jackman or Hugh Jackson interchangeably. So I know Wolverine is not running the Browns, but I cannot for the life of me ever interchange between those. They all just flow out one or the other. It's like rolling the dice.
Hugh Jackman,
Wolverine, coach of the Browns.
Mm.
But yeah, so exciting stuff going on around the league. Exciting times for the Broncos. I'm loving starting 2-0. Obviously we started 2-0 last year. I do feel like we have a lot more reason to be excited that we could go the stretch. Somebody brought up to me yesterday on Twitter that this is something you want to see in playoff teams. Is this kind of these kind of ugly wins, is, quote unquote ugly wins, is being able to respond with resilience and come through and these kind of clutch moments and win and pull wins out. So that's exciting to me, because starting off 2-0, that's already pretty good chances, that you're going to be able to have a winning record in the not a guarantee, but it's definitely improves the odds. So it's looking like our toughest match, our toughest challenge is going to be how do we keep up in a shootout against the Chiefs, and can our defense find a way to slow them down, and that will be the determining factor of who wins the division, probably, not counting out the second half Chargers of what they do in the back half of the season. But this is going to be an exciting year, and we could potentially, whether it's, conquering the Chiefs and getting in that way, winning the division, or whether it's coming in from a wild card standpoint. And I like our odds with this team that we have to go and make a deep playoff run. If we can get into the dance, that I feel like we can go with grit and fight. And if we can improve in some of these ways from now to then, especially when it comes to just Case clicking with the offense and with the players around him. I think that's the number one thing that I want to see next week. Is I just want to see the chemistry between Case and his weapons better. And I want to see us be able to run the ball with Royce a little bit better to open up the game.
Completely agreed.
I'm liking Jake Butt, man. I'm liking the potential of Butt going forward. I'm thinking that he is going to come and be that tight end that we need already this year. I'm thinking he's about one touchdown away, which we almost got it. Without the game, our first points almost were a Jake Butt touchdown. Obviously he threw into double coverage and shouldn't have done that, but he was targeting Butt. He was going to Butt on third downs. He was going to Butt in the red zone. They were trying to use him even yesterday in week 2, when I think is he still technically tight end 2 on the depth chart?
Yes, I believe that's correct. Yes.
So even despite that, they're using him already now like we'd envisioned and hoped for. And that's exciting to me. He gets one touchdown and, maybe like a 4 or 5 catch, 40, 50 yard game and a touchdown. And he's going to be like a 10-point projection tight end for, on fantasy, I think, and that's going to then become a regular thing where you're counting on, especially in the tight end deprived league that we're in. He may end up being a sneaky tight end play coming this year for, daily fantasy and for regular fantasy. That I'm excited about that because, as you know, I have him as our dynasty as well.
Right. Yeah, I really think he's got huge upside as a pass catching tight end, just getting started, really showing off a little bit yesterday and what he's capable of doing. Maybe he breaks a couple more tackles, but I think for the most part, that last drive where he caught that big first down pass, that was a great indicator of the trust and the willingness to get the ball in his hands in a critical moment. And so
Yep.
I'm really encouraged by Jake Butt and a lot of individual pieces on the offense. Now let's see it come together against a
Yep.
tough defense. I think that would make a big statement. This is one of the games that maybe we circled before the start of the season and thought, hey, this could be one of those games where you maybe pencil in as a loss. Let's go into Baltimore, travel east and play well, unlike they have in recent years. I think last year when they went to
That'll be the
Buffalo,
loudest statement.
yeah, would be a big statement. And last year they went to Buffalo and they didn't play great and they lost, and that was a turning point for the season. So let's go make a turning point moment in Baltimore for the right reasons this time.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's time.
It's time. It is time. Well, everyone, we're so grateful for all of you listening. If you haven't already, please like this video on YouTube, subscribe to us, and review us on iTunes. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think of the show. Give us some feedback, positive or negative. We want to know what your thoughts are, and we want to engage with you as the fan. We're excited to be able to enjoy the season together. So if you haven't already, that would mean the world to us. Subscribe on iTunes. Follow us on SoundCloud, wherever you are listening. We're just grateful for that. And whenever you're listening to this, it's a great day to be a Denver Broncos fan. No matter the day, no matter the time, no matter how far in the future this is, I'll say hello to my future self. Sayre, just remember, no matter what, it's a great day to be a Denver Broncos fan. So we're thankful for all of you, Brandon. We can't end it any other way. So
can't end it any other way. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you spending your time is money, man. And you, regardless of whether you're multitasking on your drive home, you're spending a bit of your energy and your time, which is currency, and you're spending it on us. You're spending it to hang out with us. And so we appreciate that. We really do, from the bottom of our hearts, in a very genuine way. Like, thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for engaging. And, find us on these different avenues and let us know, send us some love, interact with us in any way. And Sayre is on Twitter, as most of you know, at Sayre Bedinger. And then I'm on Twitter. If you want to hear me talk about regular life stuff, at Epic Keckler. But if you want to hear me talk football, that's at Knights of Den, baby. And this is not, I am not Knights of Den. We are Knights of Den. So follow Knights of Den and get engaged, because Knights of Den's coming, and it's coming strong, man. And we're gonna be taking over the galaxy, one freaking step, one game at a time. We're here with Bronco Nation, with Bronco Country, and forgive me for that. We're excited. We're excited to go on this journey with you this year. Awesome stuff's happening right now in Broncos country. Awesome stuff is happening in the future. I'm already seeing it. My spider senses are tingling. And it's a good time to be a Denver Bronco fan. Thanks, everybody, for engaging with us here. And as always, God bless and go Broncos.